was super simple.
Already done.
All right, family. Okay, so you guys had some homework to do. So we're going to discuss a few things before we get into attempting to finish the portion that we only really started last week. That was very exciting. 3-chapter portion, we do 1 chapter. And there it is. All right. So firstly, I want to discuss with you Elul. Okay? You guys went and you did some research and you found out what this funny term was? Yes? Yes, maybe. Alright, anybody got any ideas? What is Elul?
Lots of them. It's a time of reflection leading to the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Elul. It's a time of reflection, it's a time that's of building up. Okay, we've got the cycle of the 7th month upon us pretty shortly. Okay, and what that means is you've got a few of God's holidays packed in really, really tightly. Okay, you have things like, okay, Elul is literally just the month of Elul. It's just the name of the month. Okay, like Tishri, like Nivan, all of those things. Okay, that's like the September. But during the month of Elul, we reflect because it builds up. Because from Elul, at the end of Elul comes what we call Rosh Hashanah. Which literally means the head of the year. You won't find Rosh Hashanah anywhere in your Bible. Okay, what God calls it is Yom Teruah. Teruah. It's the festival of trumpets, festival of the blowing. Okay? After Yom Teruah comes what?
Sukkot.
Before Sukkot.
Oh.
Yom Kippur. Okay? So you literally have 10 days of a gap, 10 days gap. And then we have Yom Kippur, the holiest day in God's calendar. Okay? This is extremely, extremely important. He requires the entire nation. Remember, Yom Kippur is the day that the high priest is allowed to go into the Holy of Holies. It's the only day he's allowed to go in. Okay? And then after Yom Kippur, how many days? Click, click. Think about it. Sukkot. Otherwise known as tabernacles. Okay? There's a beautiful cycle that goes through from Elul right the way through, and it all builds up to one thing, celebration. But before you can celebrate with God, we've got to take care of some business first. Us being a little broken, we need to fix up a few things. Okay? So what Elul does is it gives us a nice chance traditionally to fix up with all the people around us. Okay? You have made boo-boo. You have said things harshly. You have hurt people by being short, abrupt. Maybe you were just in a bad mood. Maybe other people have hurt you and you haven't really dealt with it, so now you've got to learn to forgive. Elul is that opportunity. Okay? We take a month to be able to go up to people and go, hi. Remember that thing I said when I got out the car? I was just like, just leave me alone. And I carried on walking, and I saw that you were a little bit hurt by that. I'm really sorry, I didn't mean it. I had a really rough day, and it's not an excuse, but, you know, I feel bad about the way I reacted. How many of us have lashed out at people who are just trying to protect us from something? How many times do we fall short with our kids? People at work. You know, family is the easiest place to cut because you can just, well, they're always going to be there. I'll apologize later. This is a time where we really touch base with everybody around us. And what happens is, you will generally find if you open up your hearts to this process, God will highlight for you. Bing! Go talk to that person. And what normally happens is, I don't want to talk to that person. That person was mean and I don't like them. What do you mean? No, they said mean things to me. That's why I don't want to go talk to them. That's why I said what I said. Yeah. We don't realize we're carrying around that angst and that annoyance and that frustration every single day. Because as soon as you mention that person's name, you already start becoming agitated. You become annoyed. How could they say that thing to me? How dare they talk to me that way? Do they really think that I care that much? They're nowhere near you, man, and you're having an argument about someone who doesn't even know you're having an argument with him. We need to let that go. You carry unforgiveness with you. Even if you've said something that is correct, and you say it too hard, you say it without love, you can go to someone and you can say, listen, I know we had a little bit of an argument about this. I still stand about what I said. I stand by what I said. But the way I said it to you wasn't good. I apologize for the way I came across. That was not right. I was frustrated. I was annoyed. It's not an excuse. I apologize for that. We make restitution with the people we've hurt. God expects His family, His body to work as one, yes? How can we, if we're busy holding on to all the little annoying grievances? That guy always eats the last slice of bread. Never put the milk back in the fridge. It's those little things that can drive a person completely monkey, and you don't know, you push and pull, you fight, you don't know what's going on. And you go through this entire process for what? Love gets lost in translation. All of a sudden, it's not about how we feel or how we talk or how we deal with each other. It's about me and how I'm feeling right now because you didn't put the milk back and you know how I feel about that. And all of a sudden, it's something small turns into something big. I'm not talking to you for the next 45 minutes. And you lose your peace. We give away what God gives you. God gives you peace. He gives you shalom, right? He gives you a peace that surpasses all understanding. And we throw that peace out the door because of a toothpaste cap, because some guy cut you off in traffic, because someone said something at the wrong time, in the wrong manner, and everything just gets one-sided. Shalom. We need to start making ourselves accountable. And we need to make sure our side is right. Even if those people have hurt you, let them go so you can be free. Is that making sense? Okay? You'll see that this sort of message comes a lot across in Yeshua's teaching. Okay? He tells one of his, he was teaching his disciples and he was saying, okie dokie. So you're going up to the altar and you've got this thing and you've got someone at home has got something against you. Make your offering, and then when you feel comfortable enough and everything simmers down, then you go and talk to your friend. Absolutely not. He says you leave your offering at the altar and you go and make peace with him. Then you come back. So what if you've just walked for 10 days? It's okay. We're sitting in the age with telephones and cars. God says you cannot be right with me unless you're right with people. Because you're all my family, you're all creation. I created all of you. How much more so for the people who all follow God that are sitting in this room and you're going, I don't really like the way that person talks, it's really good. What happens if you have been given a word from God to share with that person? All of a sudden that bridge becomes a lot more harder to cross, right? I don't really like them, so should I really comfort them right now? Body starts to push and pull and kick against each other instead of working together. Alright? Time and time and time again. what we call the Lord's Prayer, or the Disciples' Prayer. Okay? Our Father who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thine kingdom come.
Thy will be done
On earth as it is in heaven.
Forgive us our trespasses.
Yes?
Forgive us our trespasses as we
Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive
forgive
those who trespass against us. So if we do not forgive, we do not get forgiven. Well, that's something we don't like to hear every day. No, but I'm right. You were right how many times, and how many times did God have to smack you on the nose before you realized you were wrong? It's a time of fixing up, guys. This is an opportunity to restore relationships that later can build up and broken down. What happens is little thing becomes bigger thing becomes festers and festers and festers, like chametz sits in the corner there and just grows and grows and grows again, and before you realize it, you don't even know why you're arguing, but you know you don't want to talk to that person ever again. For what? Because it starts off with eating this last loss of bread, not putting the milk away, toothpaste cap. Why don't you ever pick this up? Tell me I'm wrong.
Especially the
Leaving the doors and cupboards open.
Toilet seat, leaving doors and cupboards open,
Picking up socks.
picking up socks. We can think of the most ridiculous things to fight about. We go through this process where we give away our peace. For what? So you can be right. It's ridiculous. Once a year, God says, alright, this is a time of spring cleaning. Alright? When we look at going from Elul to Rosh Hashanah, okay, the blowing of the trumpets, blowing of the shofar. What is a shofar usually, what is it used for biblically? Announcing. And we can announce that there's an attack in the camp, there's an announce to get up and move forward, and there's an announcement, God is in the camp, come up and say hi. When we go through spring cleaning to make sure that our house, that everybody is okay with everybody. Might not be nice, but once you get through it, you feel a little bit better. The warning starts to blast. The shofar gets blown. The king is coming. It's time for you to appear. Are you all right with man? And as we go through this process, we realize, well, actually, I thought I was fantastic. I thought I was great, and then you realize, hang on a second, I'm not actually that great because I make mistakes, and I make more mistakes, and I make more mistakes, and now I'm going to fix up. And what God actually does is He humbles you a little bit here. And as He humbles you, He builds you up for your people. Day of Atonement is a time that you deal with your sin, where God allows the high priest to come into His very presence to atone not only for the high priest, not only to atone for the tabernacle, to atone for the vessels, to atone for the nation, but also for the land. For the full purpose of God wants to dwell. If you do this, He will continue to dwell. You have to take care of your sin. And your sin not only affects God in your relationship with God, but it affects your relationship with people. So, fix up. Make right. And if we are okay with man, and we are okay with God, 8 days party. Remember the time that God dwelt with the nation of Israel. Remember the time that God, you were sitting at the foot of the mountain, and God was covering you by cloud by day, fire by night, providing you daily bread, continually being there. Physically, you can see Him. And the awesome wonders that were happening in that time. Can we not but rejoice, knowing that the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, indwells us? But for a second thing, that if we don't take care of these things, it will not hamper your relationship with God. So I'm setting this up. Elul, I think, is about 2 weeks away. The reason I'm doing the teaching on this now, just giving you the intro, is we're not here next weekend. Okay? So yay, you have a break. Alright? We'll make sure you do a double portion. Alright, before I get to, if you guys are okay, I'll ask you guys also to go and pray about something. Okay, about expansion. Okay, there has been one reaffirmation already. Okay?
Since it last week they helped you, she also had something she mentioned to me last night.
Alright. So what I'm going to do is, if it's okay, before we close, because, you know, to put it lightly, I'm slightly nervous. Okay? I've been very panicky about this whole situation. I was nervous before I had to get up and say, look, this is what I think God is telling us to do. The reaffirmation is not only for me, but for you. Alright? And I have received one, and it's exactly, remember I went and I asked you guys to pray about a specific word from God. And He will highlight for you a specific verse from a specific book that I did not tell anybody here. I'm hoping for 2 or 3. I've already received one. Okay? So I'm going to share that with you when we close. Alright? Because I think we're going to need a little bit more strengthening as we go along. Alright? So, let's say the bracha. Alright. Start dusting off your Bibles to Exodus chapter 19, please. Book of Shemot. Alright, I'm going to say the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, who gives the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to His people Israel, and to all the peoples through His Son Yeshua the Messiah our Lord. Amen. Alright.
Sorry, just to go back a little bit. From the research I did, Elul starts around the 15th of August this year. And ends around the 16th of August this year. They say it's a day.
No, it's a month.
Maybe I misread it.
It's a month, because if you guys have all got calendars, yeah? Almost. Alright? Go and look, and then you'll see the actual name when it kicks over in about, I think it's not this week, it's the week after. Alright? You'll see the name change. Elul, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 4. Okay, and it carries on. So it's literally a month. Like I said, you will not find this instruction as per se. You will count the ordinance of Elul. It doesn't exist. I do find, however, the tradition of cleaning up your house and getting ready for the day of announcing is a really good practice.
Sorry, it's fine, I'll wait. Wouldn't it be the eve of the 16th, maybe, that he's...
Yeah, he's saying that it was only a day. It starts on the 15th into 16th.
I read it
It's
wrong.
literally a month.
I read it wrong.
In the prophecy today, they're speaking about Elul. He's probably right that it ends on the 15th of September, the 16th of September, because they say that the last blood moon is going to be on the 15th, somewhere like the 15th. And that's apparently a Shemitah year, which is a Jubilee year.
It's the end of the
So it's like, or the end of the Shemitah year. So it's like, and they're expecting huge, big things around about this Elul. I don't know what.
Now remember they had that whole process about the 4 blood moons, right? You guys remember we spoke about this? Alright, they started last year, Pesach. Okay, Sukkot last year, Pesach this year, 4th one lands on Sukkot. Alright, so while we're on our camp, okay, you'll see what happens. Alright, but Rosh Hashanah signals that started that spiritual cycle. Remember, the beginning of the calendar months is at Passover, just before Pesach, right? This is when they do the sabbatical year count. Okay, so remember, works the land 6 years, 7th year, give it rest. Okay, in your Torah. They counted, for some reason, God has it beginning and end at Yom Teruah, instead of at the beginning of Passover. Okay, so in the biblical mindset, we kind of have different cycles that start at different times and then finish at different times. One is physical, one is spiritual. And then you've got this whole kickback of, you've got agricultural cycles and daily cycles and monthly cycles, yearly cycles. And as we go through it, God's taking you through the cycles of righteousness. Alright, remember in the Psalms when it says, "Oh Lord, lead me into your paths of righteousness," the actual term is cycles. So the more times I take you around the mountain, the more times you'll know what I want, and you will ingrain a path of righteousness, and you will walk in a way that will please me. Okay? If that's using a simple analogy. Alright? The more we do it, the more times we will be able to understand what is going on. And yes, there is a whole bunch of anticipation about what's going to happen at the blood moon. This is not the first time this has happened. Okay? It has happened many times before. Okay? What is interesting is that for the first time in I don't know how long, Israel has actually kept the sabbatical year. Okay? Last year, this time, they were planting and going crazy because they knew when that shofar blew, that's it. We're letting the land rest. Okay? We cannot plant and reap and sow as per normal. You can go and pick, and whatever pops up, you can take in. But it's not like you can plant crops for that harvest. And God's promise was, if you let my land rest, there will be enough. I will provide for you, not only for the 7th year, but also till you start the planting of the 8th. So people in Israel are actually getting back to biblical roots as well, which is very exciting. Especially considering that, sadly enough, that, like I told you, something like 35–40% of Israelis are actually atheists. And the fact that the farmers are practicing sabbatical, the Shemitah, it's miraculous, right? Okay, so there is an air of anticipation, like I said, but we don't know what's coming. What we do know is the signs in the heavens, and we're looking to see what God is going to do. All right?
Can I ask a quick question
Sure.
about the Jubilee year in Rosh Hashanah? You're saying it's the cycle that's ending, so this is last year.
We're in the year of the
We're in
Shemitah
the
now.
year- Oh, okay, I thought it was actually starting. So
No,
now, because I know you were supposed to cancel your dates and
that's
stuff.
Jubilee.
Is that now?
That's the year of Jubilee. Remember, it's 7 cycles of 7 for Jubilee. So you have 7 sabbatical years, and then you have the 50th year thereafter. It's also a sabbatical year, and it's a time of full restoration. If you fell on hard times and you had to sell your land or lease out your land, remember, God gave that inheritance to your fathers because he crossed the Jordan and all the rest of it. He came. That's his land. Okay? You would be able to restore that to someone. At the end of 50 years, no matter if I made really bad decisions, I know my son can go back to the land and work the land because you're only allowed to keep that or lease it for that 50-year term. When the Jubilee comes, it's back. Your inheritance is there.
What do we do that year? Do we look at our finances, if people have lent us money that they're paying off, we release them off
The
that?
thing is, it's a difficult thing because, you know, this is something that is specifically instructed to people pertaining the land of
Okay.
Israel.
So it's pertaining to the
It's
land.
about their inheritance that they received because they came in and God put them in their land. Remember, he broke up their territories in accordance to their numbers and to their families. Because you have witnesses, because of my promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I have put you back into the land which I have promised. I've held my covenant, and I will be your God, you will be my people. Because Judah was this much, they received this land. And God actually set out their borders. Physical land. Physical people. Alright? There might be a spiritual application, we'll have to pray about it, but most definitely the fact is this is something that should be taking place in Israel, as in, remember, you have instructions that talk about social, you have instructions that talk about following God in every way, shape or form, and you have certain instructions pertaining just to the land itself, Eretz Israel. Right? It's difficult, you know, as much as we want to, you can't really apply that to your God. It's not what had been laid out in your borders. Alright? Okay. Alright, so we did all of chapter 18 last week. Lay some foundation for me. What was going on?
We had Moses who had a long queue of people waiting on his advice.
Alright?
And then Jethro actually came into covenant with God and he was accepted with God's nation. And then he actually gave advice to Moses to get the Sanhedrin people out.
Alright? It wasn't specifically the Sanhedrin, but it was sort of. Okay? It wasn't just 70 men. Alright? He said, you're letting these people stand in queue the entire day. You're wearing yourself out. You're killing your family life. You're wearing them out because they just want to ask you, you know, what to do in a silly situation maybe. But they need judgment. They want to make sure that this is in accordance with what God has said, right? But you have to stand 7-8 hours in a queue to get that problem solved. So you become frustrated, you become annoyed, and eventually you just don't care because God doesn't care because there's only one man and no one can answer your queue, so you're just driving yourself crazy and this is just stupid and pointless. As we do. Stand in a queue for longer than 10 minutes, what do people do? Isn't there anybody else that can help us? We do it all the time. No, you have to wait for Moshe. You have to wait for Moshe. And Yethro comes up and he says, what you're doing is not good. Go inquire of God to make sure this is right, but appoint men, leaders of thousands, hundreds, 50s and 10s. Okay? There were 50s in there. Check his scoreboard. Right? Alright? So what our application was and what I reminded you guys of is each and every one of you who have a specific calling in your life where God calls you out, you have influence in people's realms. You might not realize that as much. But they watch what you do. So what you share and how you talk and how you act affects the way they walk. Maybe it's just 9 of your buddies that really look up to you. Are you teaching them this, or are you teaching them your opinion on everything else? And God has this really interesting way of putting people in your life that all of a sudden, I don't know how many of you guys have come up to me and said, you know what, it's really weird, this person who never talks to me, who actually is not really religious or, never showed any interest whatsoever, just walks up to me and goes, pray for me. I'm going through a really rough time. Like, when did this happen? Why are you asking me? All of a sudden, you've been elevated and people are in this group. They're looking to you for advice. They're looking to you as standing stones, as testimony, so that when I look at you, I want to see what your God says. How does your God act? How are you supposed to behave? What do you find important? Each one of us have our realms of influence. God called out these people, and remember, He gave out a few little guidelines. What are those guidelines? It's okay, look back. Chapter 18.
Commandments.
Where's your notes?
Isn't it?
How do we test the leader?
The way that you manage
Men who are worthy.
Men who will not take bribes, men of accomplishment, God-fearing men, men of truth, men of Torah, men of God's biblical standard. Abraham.
It hasn't been upheld.
No, it hasn't.
That commandment especially hasn't been upheld.
And this is funny.
You cannot appoint anybody unless they're actually qualified and knowledgeable enough and basically righteous.
These people have to be tested.
Yeah.
You know what? I think it's because people put a title on you, now you feel responsible that you have to do. They forget that the title is not your calling. Okay? Just because someone calls you Steve doesn't mean that's your name. Right? You have to be called by God to be able to do what you need to do. And if there is a little bit of a wobble, which there probably will be, all of a sudden your home life is not as right. If we look at what I believe it's 2 Timothy, or it's in Timothy as well. He also gives guidelines for leadership. Okay? If your kids are unruly, you cannot stand up and lead a congregation. Because those who are right underneath your nose, your flock, have to fall in line as much as the flock you're leading. So if, God forbid, one of us go through this motion that our kids all of a sudden take a little bit of a wayward step, it is my responsibility to say, listen guys, I need someone else to fill this gap because I need to go take care of that sheep over there that's deciding to run off that mountain. I have to take care of that. I have to be responsible enough to also go, you know what, I'm not in the right space right now. Love you madly, have a weekend off. I need to go spend some time with God because what's running in my head or what I'm dealing with in my heart is not biblical. I need to go and fight. I need quiet time. If Yeshua had to do that, guess what? We're going to have to do it too. When it became too much, He went to a quiet, desolate place. Eremos Targos. Nice way of saying an open field. And he went to go worship. And he went to go spend time with God. Why? Because he needed building up. He needed strengthening because it's tough. Let 10 people come in and out of your life. Back and forth, in and out your home, back and forth. Going through this whole process, it drains you. Because you have to give them food, you have to give them food, you have to encourage, you have to give them food, you have to encourage. No, do this. This is what God's. You give them testimony after testimony after testimony after testimony. If you're not being fed, food's going to run out. There has to be this continuous supply of God pouring in so you can give. And sometimes you're going to need to go, hold the bus. I need a week off. Okay? You have a responsibility to God first, then to your flock. Okay?
Sorry, but it's evidenced by the fact that God's got 613 laws, and the overall law of the Jewish people now is something like 7,500. So they've tried to improve on that, so they've moved away from the truth into things that they think they're going to try and perfect God's will.
Yeah.
And that's the danger, is to move away from Scripture and what it means.
Like we've said before, look, I understand their heart, but wait, they do go a little bit offside.
Yeah.
Just as Christians do. With a Jewish heart, they're like, okay, this is an instruction. You will not work on Shabbat. What does that mean? And then they go and they put a fence around it so you don't come over the fence, so that you don't get close to breaking the instruction. The problem is we've got 47 fences and we forgot what the instruction said. They are so scared of breaking a mitzvah that they make ridiculous amounts of laws to the point where work on Shabbat means turning on that light. And I sit and I think, brothers, you've missed the point. It's a holy convocation. It's a time spent with God. And this is what I feel Yeshua was mainly about. He went in and he realigned their hearts to Torah. Is it good to do good on Shabbat? We know yes, because he said so. They were like, what is that? What does it mean? What do I do? Where do I go? And he had to identify healing someone on God's day to give God glory. This is not work. This is something to celebrate. Not only am I restoring a man before your eyes in a miraculous way, but I'm restoring him to the community, so you all don't have to work yourselves to the bone to give him food. He can get up and he can receive and go out and work himself and get some satisfaction out of doing something. Where before, man with a withered hand, don't you want to pick up? Just stay right there. No, you come help me here quickly. No, I got it. No, we're picking up stones. Okay, you can help where you can, but 9 times out of 10 you're probably just going to get in the way. Go and look after the children. Go and do what you can, but for the rest of us, we will take care of you. As per God's instructions, we will look after you because you cannot do this. Hand restored. This is terrible. How can you do this on Shabbat? Just imagine Yeshua's face going, you've missed the point. We have missed the point in every essence from where we're coming from as well. We've gone the opposite route. Don't have to do Shabbat. You need a sabbatical principle in your life. So if you rest sometime during the week, you'll be doing good. You've got to get back to truth. This is what God said. This is what He stated. This is what we need to follow. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change. If anybody tells you otherwise, we need to check their authority. You either follow man or you follow God. And I understand this can be tough because people can pull verses and that out of context and they don't understand the history or they haven't been taught. But that's why we're here, right? Okay, let's jump into this portion. In the 3rd month after the exodus of the children of Israel in the land of Egypt, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. They traveled from Rephidim and they came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. And Israel camped here opposite the mountain. Remember what we said about that mountain? It was a sign to who that they would go back to the mountain? Moses. At the burning bush. Moshe, you will bring them back here and they will worship on this mountain. That'll be a sign for you. And Moses had gone up to God. Remember, that's like 1,000 steps, eh? And Hashem called to him from the mountain saying, this is what you shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the house of Israel. Why Jacob and Israel?
Physical seed and the spiritual.
Right. When you look at the man who was called Israel, his name was Jacob when he was doing physical things, and when he was aligned with God, he was Israel. Okay? Physical, spiritual. We are grafted into the house of Jacob, yes?
No.
And stand again. House of Israel. You are not physically a Jew, but yet you are attuned and you have the blessing, according to Galatians, of being heirs to the promises of them. Because you are spiritually grafted in. You become a Hebrew. You cross over. And you belong to God. You've seen what I did to Egypt, and I carried you on eagle's wings, and I brought you to me. Remember, an eagle carries the young on their back. He uses his body to protect them, and he soars across to such. I know, we did this last week, but I love it. He carries you unto himself. This is not a God of wrath and judgment that says, oh, you report or else. He says, my beloved, come to you. Come to me, come to your room. Listen to that language. And now, if you listen to my voice and observe my covenant, then you will be a treasure to me out of all the peoples. Your Bibles will probably say a peculiar treasure. Something so precious.
Well, you said, if you observe.
If, yeah.
So one says that now, if you diligently obey my voice and you guard my covenants, I think that God is, you hold it as something precious.
Okay. Some of the translations will say God. Alright? How do you protect or guard God's instructions? You keep them here. Okay, like you keep your peculiar treasure. Your preciousness that gets locked in the safe that you only bring out like once every 12 years. Look at it, it's pretty. And it's back. Okay? This is who you are to God. He wants to show the world who you are. He wants to glorify you. He wants to lift you up because you follow Him. Not because you do it your way, not because you follow yourself, not because you follow man, but because you follow Him. If you will observe my covenant, my instructions, my mitzvot,
Not Moses.
not Moses' instructions, not man's instructions, not your pastor's instructions, I will tell you again, God has to be the authority. This has to be the standard. If this is not our standard, then your religion is whatever you want it to be. But you're not following God. Okay? Like I said to you before, I read this to show you what God said. Your responsibility is to listen and do what God said. That's it. You will be a treasure to me out of all the peoples, because all the earth is mine, and you will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation to me. What does a priest do biblically? Sorry? Well, that's what shepherds do.
Teach the flock.
Isn't it?
What does a Levite do? Where does he work? He works in the temple.
That's sacrifices.
And he deals with sacrifices. And what does a sacrifice do? Not just a tone. Remember, it could be a Thanksgiving offering, peace offering.
It's going to show the knowledge of God.
It draws me near to God. Remember, the word offering in Hebrew means draw near to. So if I want my relationship with God, I will go and offer up something, and look at the image. Okay, Ole offering. Everything goes up to God. It's about dedication. I give myself as a Ole offering. Everything I am is yours. If I deal with my sin, I remove sin in an ancient pictographic form, literally means a strong fence. I remove the fence so that I can come close to. It's about relationship. So if you are a kingdom of priests, give me a New Testament reference. Who says that? Creak, creak. It starts with a P, but it's not Paul.
Yes.
I'm trying to channel in you where biblically, what chapter, what verse. Yum, 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 yum. Oh yes, we're a kingdom of priests. Yes, we are. Sorry, where did you see that? We're in the Bible. There at the back somewhere.
New Testament. New Testament.
Hey, come on guys, Google helps you lots. Ding, 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 ding. That's Peter. But the image is in Hebrews. In the book of Peter, in the letter, in the epistle.
Number 2, your living stones that God has brought into spiritual temple, that's more your holy priests.
You are holy priests. Sorry, Auntie, what was that?
That's, 1 Peter 2, verse 5. That speaks about living stones, and then you are his holy priests, so the mediation.
1 Peter 2. According to the New Testament, you are a kingdom of priests. So God sees you as he sees the same nation of Israel. So what is your job? If you do not understand what a Levite did, you will never fulfill your purpose as a priest. All of a sudden, the book of Leviticus isn't just a whole bunch of do's and don'ts. It's about your function. You are not required to go and make offerings. But I tell you what, when people need God and they need that relationship restored, you bring an offering to their table. What's his name?
Sure.
Don't worry. God has fixed a way for you to come back to. All you need to do is believe and accept the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach. This is our offering. You, a kingdom of priests. What does it mean to be a holy nation?
Set apart.
Set apart, that's nice. What does that mean? Dedicated to? Okay, what does that mean?
Distinct from all the other nations.
Yes, that's nice. We've got this whole thing about us being separate, but none of us are staying on our own island. We're dedicated to God. Yes, please. But what does that mean to me? How do I act out dedicated to God?
Do what he says.
You set apart.
Bring other people to him.
Through a halakha.
Do the word.
There are so many different aspects of this, it's not even funny. You have to act dedicated to God. There's a wonderful thing. You guys who do Shabbat, right? You get this funny little cup. Alright, remember we took you to either to Israel or to a nice Jewish store and we got you something called a Kiddush cup. Kiddush comes from the same root as Kadosh. Kadosh is holy. Alright? Something that is Kadosh, we do not use our Kiddush cup every day drinking our wine because it's used for wine. We use it one day a week. Because that is set apart for a specific purpose, glory unto God. Do you see the picture? This is who you are. You are not some common lackey. You are anointed. You are set apart because guess what? Your title, your job that God has allowed you to get, doctor, architect, blood mechanic, whatever you are, that is not who you are. That is how God provides for you so that you can go be what you've been called to be. You want to bring God? You start with a sacrifice. As you come in with that sacrifice and that blood of Yeshua and that hope of restoration, that relationship where you've been running, people, stick your hands up guys, if you had been running for how long before he gripped you and he says, you really want me? Let me show you how to come back to full relationship with God. How many of us have that testimony? Every single one of us ran from God. And then he was just like, it's time to restore. But by the blood through Yeshua HaMashiach.
Also with the whole thing with the function of the priest and that, through history they also went off the path and then Yeshua had to come in to restore it. I like what you said earlier that he had to show them back to to the heart of Torah. Because I know that the arguments against keeping that is that we failed to, so that's why Yeshua came. So now we don't have to do that anymore because it's the old thing. Now it's a new thing.
Yeah.
But it's actually Yeshua that came and brought everyone back to that heart. We're
I'm
going to
gonna-
fail.
I'm going to expand on that thought. If you wait, just hang fire. I'm going to expand on that thought a little bit now. Okay? Moses came and he came and called the people and the elders. He set them before all of these words that Hashem had commanded them. And all the people responded together. They said, we'll do everything that Hashem has spoken. I do, in other words. The nation answered. This is not a covenant between Moses and God, and he just says, this is what God said you'll do. They agreed. Every single one of us have to answer for yourself. It doesn't help that your husband is a believer and you're a coattail hanger-oner. You know, he prays a lot, so I don't have to. We all have that responsibility. We have to lead our homes. We have to build each other up. You have a choice to make. And Moses brought back the people's words to Hashem. And Hashem said to Moses, have you noticed here? Go down, tell them. And then he goes up and he tells God. And then he goes back and tells them. 1,000 steps, 1,000 steps, 1,000 steps, 1,000 steps. This is an 80-year-old man. And Hashem said to Moses, here I am coming to you in a mass of cloud for the purpose that the people will hear when I am speaking with you, and they will believe in you as well forever. This is not just a covenant made with Moses. This was not Moses sitting on a mountain, as some people might say, it's sitting there daydreaming and all of a sudden, I'm going to write a book. Everything that's wrong with the world, and I'm going to write instructions down, and there we go, bestseller. This is testimony after testimony after testimony of what God has done. Eyewitness testimony. This is not between Moses and whoever he feels like. God will show a nation. And Moses told the people's words to Hashem. And Hashem said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them. Sanctify, set them apart. How do I set something apart? You anoint them. Anointing. For us, according to Peter, how are we set apart? Through anointing. Through the Ruach, but what had to come first?
Baptism.
Yeshua, who is the Mashiach, which means he is the anointed one. Literally his term. He who is anointed of God is the Messiah. That's his name. So when his blood poured out over you, his anointing has come on you. Hebrews 1, right?
Yeah.
Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their clothes and be ready for the third day, because on the third day Hashem will come down on Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. Wash your clothes. It seems like a really random thing to do.
No, doesn't say that. But they
Cleanse
can-
yourselves,
no,
wash
that
yourselves.
goes on. I'll get the next.
Okay? It is the same image as a mikvah. As I go into the water, I'm worrying not only just about my physical cleanliness, because I'm coming up to the King, but I'm also, when I'm busy washing my hands, what did I do? When I'm washing my feet, how am I walking before God? It's about reflection. Remember, Hebrew is always about pictures. And you shall limit the people all around, saying, watch yourselves about going up to the mountain and touching its edge. Anyone who touches a mountain shall be put to death, or shall die. Why would God strike down the people he's setting apart? He says, I love you, you're my treasure, but come close to me, that's what you did.
Well, it's a case of, wouldn't it be a case of contesting his authority as well?
But Moses is running up and down the mountain.
Yeah, but
Come on,
Moses.
So Moses is allowed to go.
80-year-old man with legs like this.
He should leave it. He shouldn't have talked.
The Levites been set apart yet.
It's probably probably similar to what Esther went through, having to be purified and refined. But those months before she actually went into the king, the same kind of thing. They weren't purified.
Yeah.
They weren't keeping themselves holy.
Okay, so one aspect is they're not completely clean yet. There has been no sacrificial system in place to help them deal with their sin. 1. 2.
The halakha, is it perfected as yet?
No. So maybe their walk is not right. Remember, they were grumbling not a couple of days ago, man. Should have died in the wilderness. No, take me back to Egypt. I'm sick and tired of this place.
Also, they've been so involved with worship of other idols and gods and things.
Okay?
Maybe their hearts aren't really fully focused.
They do not understand the awesome power your God holds. This is something that's very, very striking to me, is that Moses himself was like, let me see your face, let me see your face. And he's like,